Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Wesam Berjaoui, and I work with UIF, which stands for University Islamic Financial. Inshallah, today I will be doing a presentation on Islamic home financing. I ask all of you, inshallah, to hold all questions until the end of the presentation. I would like to thank the board and the masjid for allowing us to be here today to educate you on Islamic home financing. They are not endorsing us, but they are giving us an opportunity to educate you on how it works. We're not here to convince anyone, but to answer some of the questions that you may have in terms of Islamic financing, some of the similarities, the differences, and how to get pre-approved with us as well. Now, some of you may have heard of UIF, and some of you may have not. And so I just wanted to give a little bit of a background about UIF. So we've been around for about 20 years. We're operational currently in 29 states. And the 29 states that you see up here, there's a reason why we're not operational in all 50 states. And if we did offer an interest-bearing contract, it would be a lot easier to offer and be operational in all 50 states because the interest contracts are more standard. With our Sharia-compliant contracts, they are a lot different, and so we have to make sure that it works within the state that we are operational in. As you know, the finance industry is very heavily regulated, and each state has their own rules and regulations. So we make sure that we work within those frameworks. Also, we have done over $4.5 billion in residential home financing. So we have a great deal of experience of financing homes here in the United States. And we've also done commercial financing is one of the other products that we offer. We do medical offices, shopping centers, masjids, Islamic schools, and so on. So if you have a commercial financing need, please reach out to us as well. Now, many of you are going to ask, what's the difference, right? Is it myth or reality in terms of Islamic finance? I often get the question, Brother Wesam, it's the same thing. You're holding your ear this way or you're holding your ear this way, right? And some of you may say that, but if you see me standing up like this, I look funny, right? So the brother's laughing back there. But if I hold my ear like this, right, it's not funny either way, right? So there's a right way and wrong way of doing things, although the outcome is the same. It's the process and how you got there and get there that makes all the difference from a halal perspective. As we all know, our religion is all based on doing things the right way, not necessarily just the outcome of it. And similar to us, our process is different, and our contract that you sign at closing is completely different. There is no interest promissory note that you sign with us, along with us being a partner with you in the home, in which I'm going to explain that to you as well. But I do want to go over the general concept before I get into a little bit more detail. The general concept Islamically. As we all know, in Islam, you can make a profit. Okay? There's nothing haram about making a profit, and it's encouraged for Muslims to be successful in this world as well, right? We want Muslims to be wealthy, we want Muslims to donate, we want Muslims to help alleviate poverty and many other things, and to be successful. So there's nothing haram about buying and selling a physical asset, okay, and making a profit off of it. What you cannot do is profit from lending money. So I could lend you money, there's nothing haram about lending money, but I cannot profit off of lending money, right? So if I lend you $1,000, you have to give me back $1,000 exactly, not $1,000 and 1 penny or 1,100. Anything more than what I've lent you is haram. So lending money is encouraged from a charitable purpose, not through profiting of it, but a business transaction and services is perfectly halal. Now, I introduced myself as Wesam Berjaoui. I've been with UIF for 14 years, but I'm not a scholar and I'm not a sheikh. So in order to make sure that the product is Sharia compliant and halal, we do have a great group of scholars that have reviewed our program and have approved it. And these scholars are very well known in Islamic finance, right? If you have an issue and you want to go see a doctor, you see a specialist if it's something specialist that requires a specialist. Similarly, the scholars that we have focused on Islamic finance. And some of these names you may know, some of them you may not, but if you do a simple search on their names, you'll see the caliber of these scholars. First and foremost, you have Mufti Abdullah Nana, you have Sheikh Nizam Yaqubi, the late Professor Sheikh Hussein Hamid, and you have Dr. Abdul Bari Mash'ad. Now these are the scholars that have reviewed our program and approved it, and we also do an annual audit every year to make sure that we're still Sharia compliant. So we're the only Islamic finance company that I know of that actually does an audit year after year to make sure that we're still Sharia compliant. Because just because they approved us a year ago, or 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that doesn't mean we are still following the same process, right? Things have changed, documents can change, and so it's important to do an annual audit to make sure we're still Sharia compliant, and we do that. Now we have also other sheikhs that have either reviewed our program or used the program for their own home as well, and we take that as a testimony of their faith in our program of Sharia compliance. Some of the scholars that you may know also, once again, is the former president of ISNA, Imam Muhammad Majid. You have Imam Zaid Shakir, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, Sheikh Omar Suleiman, Imam Tahir Anwar, and if you visit our website, myuif.com, you'll find more scholars as well. This way it gives you a peace of mind of our program. Now, before we get into the Islamic finance aspect of it, you also want to know the haram aspect, or what is currently available in the traditional market, right? And if you go to a bank, how does a bank make money? Because you have to differentiate how the conventional market works versus an Islamic finance model for you to understand what's the difference between them. Because like I said, in the end, the numbers are going to be the same. You're going to end up with the house. But the process and the relationship is different. With the traditional bank, I'll give you an example. Let's say John goes to the bank and deposits $1,000. When he goes to the bank is going to say, okay, John, here's a 0.5% of interest for us holding your money. Now the bank has to sell the money or get rid of the money and make a profit off of it. So let's say Frank comes to the bank and Frank says, I need a loan for $1,000. They say, okay, Frank, here is a loan for $1,000, but we want 5% interest for that money. So the 0.5% it's paying John to buy his money or keep his money in the account, and the 5% that it's selling it to Frank or lending it out, the difference between the two is how the bank makes money, and this is called a profit or interest spread. The difference between it pays out to get the money and the amount it receives. And so the bank buys and sells money. What Frank does with that $1,000, the bank generally doesn't care. They only care for their interest money back. Now, from an Islamic finance perspective, things work a bit differently from that. As we established before, you cannot profit from lending money, but you can profit from buying and selling a physical asset. As we all know that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was a tradesman. Khadija radiallahu anha would send them off to trade and barter and to sell things, and this is how they made a profit, right, from physical assets. So generally speaking, there are some more details to it, but generally speaking, if the asset is halal and two parties agree on the price and it is a fair price for both sides, then it is a halal transaction, right? So if I want to sell you, let's say, this jacket for $100, you agree for $100 to buy the jacket, and I'm happy to sell it for that price, then it is a halal transaction, right? I cannot sell you something haram, like I'm from New Jersey. I've learned here in Kentucky, very famous in Louisville and Lexington, there's bourbon, right? Bourbon is not halal. I cannot sell you that even for $1 because the asset is a haram asset. But everything, laptop, phone, and so on, if that price is right, then it is okay, it is a halal transaction and the profit is halal. Just a key note, because I know in our culture, we like to, if we are the buyer and there's a seller, we like to haggle a lot with the price. This is like within our blood and DNA to haggle. But it's also not of the sunnah to haggle so much in which the seller just wants to say, just take it and take it for free. You know, I don't want to sell it anymore, because we get to the point of haggling to a point where it becomes unpleasant for the seller. So from an Islamic finance transaction, the purchase has to be a halal asset and two parties are happy with the price. Now, If I ask you about Islamic finance, how would you describe an Islamic finance transaction? And there's around 15, 20 people here right now. I might get 15 to 20 different answers, or I might get a mix of those answers. Now, the scholars have come up with three main modes of Islamic finance models here in the United States. First off is the Murabaha model, and then you have the Ijara model, and then you have the Musharaka model. Depending on which of these three different models are used, there are different rights, responsibilities, and liabilities, okay? Because if I ask you about Islamic finance, how does it work? You might tell me risk sharing, profit sharing, there will be a mix of those answers. Now, depending on who owns the property, there's different risks and reward. In the first example, the Murabaha model. Murabaha model is a marked up installment contract, okay? Marked up installment contract. And you, the homeowner, will be 100% owner from the first day, okay? Murabaha model, you own it 100%. And how does the Murabaha model work? Let's say the house is $100,000, okay? We would purchase the home for $100,000, sell it to you for, let's say, $120,000, and then break up the payment equally over a period of time, let's say 10 years. Okay, so it is a marked up installment contract. We purchase it, sell it to you, you're 100% owner, and you pay us back in installments. This is very similar to, let's say, if you were going to purchase a phone from, let's say, Best Buy, an iPhone, and the phone is $1,000, okay? Most people don't pay for the phone up front for $1,000, they pay it in installments, let's say $50 a month. Now, from the first day that you signed the contract, you own that phone 100%. If you drop the phone and crack the screen, you still have to pay $1,000 for the phone because you own it 100%. If you sell the phone on eBay for $1,500, you keep the $500 profit and you pay back the $1,000, right? And because you are 100% owner of the phone, in this case, in the Murabaha program, you're 100% owner of the property. You're just paying back in installments. And the second model is the Ijara model. Ijara is a lease to own. In this model, the financing company owns the property 100% until you have enough money saved up to buy out the financing company. So how does that work? Let's say once again the house is $100,000, okay? And the financing company is going to purchase it and it's going to own that property. You're going to use the house, and as you use the house, you're going to pay them a rent for using their home. Kind of like if you're renting a home now, you pay the landlord money for using their home. But you're also going to be putting money on the side to save up to buy out that $100,000 home from the financing company. As you have enough money saved up, then the house will be transferred to you. Until then, you don't own the home, the financing company owns it. Okay, so in this case, the Ijara model, it is a lease to own, financing company owns it. The Murabaha model, the one before it, just to remind you, you would own the home 100%. And in the third model, and this is the model that UIF focuses on the most, that is the Musharaka model or partnership model. And this model is kind of a hybrid between the two models above. In this case, you will find the home, negotiate the price on our behalf as well, because once you get pre-approved with us, we give you a pre-approval letter that states that you are able to find a home for this sales price with this amount of financing, and on our behalf as a partner, we give you permission to shop around for the home and negotiate it on our behalf. So you look for a home, we will purchase it together and co-own the property. Over a period of time, you're going to buy out our portion of the home. Okay, so we own the home together, and then you're going to buy us out over a period of time. And I'll show you this in a little bit more detail in this particular slide. So in this particular slide, let's say you own or you find a home that's $100,000, and you put 10% down. We will put the other 90%, and together co-own the home 100%. Now, although we own 90% of the home in this example, you are going to use the house 100%. you're going to make a monthly payment. Part of your payment is going to go towards buying out our 90% share, and part of it is going to go towards the rent or the profit that we make for you using our share of the home. Next month, your share goes up from 10% to 11%, 12%, 15%, 50, 60, 70, 80, until you become 100% owner in the property. As you have more share in the home, month after month, our rent or profit goes down as well. So until you become 100% owner in the property as shown in this example. Okay? So in this case, we co-own the property. In the first example, in the Murabaha model, who owns the property? Can someone tell me who owns the property in the Murabaha model?
Customer.
The customer yourself, correct. And in the Ijara model, who owns the property? Financing company. And in the partnership, it's a musharaka. Together we co-own the property. And so the reason why I stress this is that who takes on the risk and the profit sharing depending on who owns the property. Right? This is very key to knowing from an Islamic perspective. And so I want to go over this ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah because it's very important. Because as I was telling one of the brothers earlier, we're here to educate you on Islamic finance. We're not here to convince you because there are similarities. We're not telling you this is a completely different payment and you're going to, look at something you've never seen. There are similarities, but there are key differences as well in the process. And here in Surah Al-Baqarah, you will see that in this ayah, it kind of summarizes also what we feel is the difference as well. In Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, they say trade is but a kind of riba, but Allah has made trade lawful and riba unlawful, right? Why is that? In riba, in interest, you do make a profit, right? No one says you don't make a profit. There's a profit made. And in a trade transaction, there's also a profit made. But Allah has made interest haram, not lawful, and trade on a physical asset, halal. So this is a key difference to remember. The outcome may be the same. The difference is what also is the process. And to give you another example. So a few years ago, I was traveling overseas, and I had brought back 2 bracelets for my 2 daughters. So when I came home, I put them on my bracelets, my daughter's hands, and they were too small. And so I went to a Muslim jeweler, and the jeweler, she said that she would buy these bracelets off of me, and I asked her if she had some that I can replace them with. She said yes, and she showed me another batch of bracelets to choose from. So she told me that pick out the ones that you want, and I found the bracelets that I wanted. So the ones I was selling to her that I owned at that time was $1,000 for total for those bracelets. The ones that I saw that I wanted to purchase was $800, okay? So typically what happens is that if I'm selling for $1,000 and I'm buying for $800, I give her the bracelet, she gives me her bracelets, and she gives me $200. Kind of a swap, and we keep it moving. But what she did is that, which was the right way to do it from an Islamic perspective, is 2 separate transactions. First, she purchased the bracelets from me for $1,000. She gave me the cash and she gave me a receipt. And then she rang me up for another transaction, for a purchase transaction, for the 2 bracelets and the $800. In both cases, I wind up with the bracelets and $200 in my pocket. But we had to go an extra step, okay, and making sure they're 2 separate transactions. The outcome was the same, but the process was slightly different. From an Islamic perspective, she was correct in doing so. So keep this in mind just for us to educate ourselves, not just from the home financing perspective, but like I said earlier, the Deen tells us about many things to do. We need to make sure we look at these small fine points to make sure that we're doing things in the best of ways. Now when we look at how to purchase a home, what are the steps towards purchasing a home? Yes?
Can you explain it? Because they need to know why she did that. Because she can't sell you something that she doesn't know. That's
Correct.
Haram.
Yes, correct. You cannot sell something you do not own, but in that case, she was selling me the bracelets that she did own. But you cannot trade something inferior for something superior and vice versa, right? For example, the hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when a companion came to him and said, I traded 4 low quality dates for 2 high quality dates. Okay, 4 low quality tamr dates for 2 high quality dates. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it was better for him to have sold those 4 low quality dates, and with that money to have purchased the 2 high quality dates. You cannot trade something inferior for something superior, and so on and so forth. So selling and buying has certain rules to it. And that's why I was saying earlier that purchasing a purchase transaction, there's a lot more details to it, but the general concept of a halal asset and 2 parties agreeing to it, because absolutely there are reasons why and a lot of details behind it as well. Now, from purchasing a home, what are the steps towards purchasing a home? First off is to get pre-qualified for 2 reasons. One, as I mentioned earlier, is to make sure us as a partner give you permission on our behalf to look for the home and to negotiate it, so that when we close on the time of closing, we're purchasing it together. And then you also know how much to shop around for. You don't want to look for a home for a month or 2 months or 6 months, only to come back later on and you're not really approved. So it's important to get pre-qualified up front, so you know the process later on will be smoother. Second is to shop around with a local realtor to make sure that this realtor knows the market. Very, very important. Because especially in today's market, it's a seller's market, right? It's a very hot market, prices are going up. You want to deal with someone who's experienced and who knows the local market as well. We do have a local realtor with us also here today. Brother Khalid is with us. Inshallah, he's over here sitting towards my left, and he will inshallah pass out his information if you don't know him. He's based in Lexington and grew up here as well, so he knows the community extremely well. Once you do have a signed sales contract, you will then come back to us and give us the documents that we would request from you, such as pay stubs, bank statements, and your ID. Once you give us those documents, our processor and underwriter operations team will review the documents, make sure everything matches up with the initial application, and then from there we give a conditional approval, and then a final approval, and then we go towards the closing. The closing generally takes around 30 days, could be from 30 to 45 days, depending on the buyer, how cooperative they are in terms of sending their documents over. But the average turn time is around 30 days. So this will give you a little bit of example of the process itself, but then some of you may be asking in terms of what do you look for to qualify, okay? What do you look for to qualify? It's a very good question. We all want the nicest home, and when we're driving by, we see like these nice homes and like, wow, mashallah, I want a house like that, inshallah, right? How do you qualify for any house? Could be even a small house that gives us comfort. So first off, we look at your monthly income, because based on the payment, we have to qualify you. So give you an example. Roughly speaking, if you have no liabilities, no car loans, student loan, credit card debt, you have no liabilities, then roughly for every $20,000 of income, you would qualify for about $100,000 in home financing, okay? $20,000 of income, $100,000 in home financing. If you're employed, we take your gross salary. You work for a company and they give you a salary, we take your gross amount of your income. If you're self-employed, we take your net income, which is after your expenses. That is what we use to qualify you. So if you're looking to finance a home for $300,000, how much income would you need? $60,000, correct. So that's part one of what we look for, is your income, to see if you can make the payments. Second is we look at your credit, a history in your credit report, to see what is your history of making your past obligations on time. We do work with a wide range of credit, from poor credit to excellent credit. We do have standards in terms of what we look for, but we encourage everyone to apply regardless of your credit score. If you don't have any credit, we can still work with you. If you have no credit at all, nothing good, nothing bad, and you have no credit, then we can also work with you as well. We do have different programs that look at different criteria to qualify you instead of your credit history if you have no credit. And then last but not least, we also look for a down payment. The down payment on a single family primary residence can be as low as 3% down. Okay, so as low as 3% on a single family home. The more you put down, the better it is for you. but it could be as low as 3%. Now with that, I do want to start to wrap up the presentation with our promise to you from UIF in terms of what we will always strive to achieve and to offer the community. First and foremost is a strict Sharia compliant program. As I mentioned earlier, we have a great group of scholars that have reviewed and approved our program, and we do that annual audit as well to make sure that you have a contract that is of the highest caliber of Sharia compliance here in the United States. We also are competitive in terms of pricing, right? I always hear, brother, Islamic finance is more expensive, right? I don't know if you guys say that, but sometimes you hear that, right? And I can tell you that amongst the Islamic finance companies, we are amongst the lowest of them. And once you compare us to the traditional mortgage company, our pricing is right in the middle. Can you find lower than us with traditional? Yes, you can. Can you also find higher than us in the traditional mortgage companies? Yes, you can. And there's a big reason why. For example, with the traditional mortgage company, there are literally thousands or tens of thousands of mortgage companies, okay? And it's a lot easier. They don't have to deal with the added cost of Sharia compliance and board and attorneys and so on. Okay, with our program, it's a bit different. But like I said, our pricing is just like, let's say Walmart. Walmart is an everyday value. If you go to Walmart, you know that you're not being taken advantage of, and you have a competitive low price. Can you find lower than Walmart? Yes, you can. Can you also find it more expensive than Walmart? Yes, you can. But going there, you know that you're getting a product that you're looking for and at a competitive price. And then while you're purchasing a home, the whole family is excited. You're excited to move into a house. If you have wife or kids and wife and kids and so on, you have more added emotions in the house, and we're moving in schools and so on and so forth. You want to work with somebody reputable who's going to walk you through the process. Very, very important. I can tell you one of the reasons why many people do not get approved when they should get approved is that they work with the wrong person. And this is not just with UIF, this is with other companies as well, and where you may work as well, right? You might work with your colleagues, and your colleague doesn't do half of the work that you do, right? Because they might not have the skill sets and so forth. But you do have a great local representative over here, Brother Abdul Rauf in the back, inshallah. He's one of our top guys and very creative, and he'll help you get you through that, right? So, you know, it's very important someone to walk you through that process, handhold you to keep you posted of how things are going, and you and your real estate agent to work together. Now, all of his hard work is great in being creative and getting things to work, but on top of that, we've spent millions of dollars on the latest and greatest technology out there in order to streamline the process. Once you apply with us, you'll be able to, of your choosing, you can log into your account that we don't see, your bank account, as well as your payroll provider's account on your screen, and that information gets downloaded into our system, and the system computer reads all the information needed, and you get almost like an instant approval. So it really cuts down the time, less eyes, less human reviewing the paperwork, less errors, and cuts down the time dramatically in terms of closing. So with great customer service and the latest technology, we hope to streamline the process to close in as little as 10 days. And so with that, I want to wrap up the presentation with some highlights from customers like yourselves who have voted UIF #1 for 7 years in a row by Islamic Finance News. We take that as great, thanks to you for voting us 7 years in a row. No other Islamic finance company in the US has been voted even once. We've gotten the award 7 years, and this is a testimony to our Google reviews as well that all of the customers have given us throughout the years. And we will, inshallah, end off, and I will take questions, inshallah, pertaining to UIF and Islamic financing. Jazakallah khair. Questions, inshallah. Yes?
You mentioned at the beginning that you said you don't buy money and sell money, and you said you buy a product and you sell a product. Now, what is here, when you go to buy a house, you go through a bank, regular bank in your state or any part of the world, then you make a deal with them based on interest, right? So if you buy a house, say that the house was appraised then after the interest, by the time you pay off the whole thing, it will be 120, say. Now, what you're saying is, if I want that particular house, I will come to you, and the house is worth 100,000, you will buy it, but you will sell it to me for 120, okay? Now, that's what you're saying, right?
That is,
buy and sell.
yes, that is one of the programs. That is the Murabaha program. We primarily focus on the other program, which is Musharaka. But go ahead, inshallah,
Okay.
yes.
Now, the bank make his interest, the extra money, in a period of time. You make your money in a lump sum time, you know, so that means I will give you 120, that's it. Now, would you buy that house without me knowing that I want that house?
So two things. One, keep in mind, we're focusing on our end, the partnership model, which our profit is only on a month-to-month basis, not the marked up program from 100 to 120,000, that $20,000 profit that you're referring to. Okay, so we focus on the third program, not the first one, which is the installment contract. But to answer your question, no, the financing company would not be purchasing the property and holding it if you're not going to purchase it. And the reason is that the financing company is not in the property management business, right? That would be a different industry to be in. So to buy it and hope that someone comes and then sell it to them, every family has a different need, so they wouldn't do that, right? So yes, so the buyer in the Murabaha model, the end buyer is known in terms of purchasing that as well. But to alleviate your concern in terms of the future profit being built into the price, that is not the case in the partnership or Musharaka model, right? In the Musharaka model, in this case, when we own, let's say 90%, 60%, whatever amount ownership of the property, you're paying us a rent, okay, for using our share of the home on a monthly basis. If the next month you come up and you win, let's say the halal lotto, and you want to buy us out, whatever the shares is, our profit stops right there. It's only done on a month-to-month basis, kind of like if you're renting now. You pay rent on a month-to-month. You may have a lease, a year, 1-year agreement with us. There's no prepayment penalty. At any time, you could make extra payments to buy us out sooner, or a lump sum to finish the contract sooner as well. So there is no forward profit being paid.
So there was no intention, you know, like the good intention behind it. I mean, you're not like helping me because you didn't buy the house and put them in the market, then I come to you and say, look, I paid that much for the house, I'll give it to you for 120, and that's it. This is, when you buy something without knowing somebody that buys it, there will be a good intention. But if you know I want that house and you buy it because you know you're going to make 20,000 out of me, then it's the same as the bank taking interest from me in a different way.
Sure. Well, I understand your point of view, but you know, as we're here to explain the program. We are upfront. We say we do make a profit, and we are a business, right? Unfortunately, we're not a non-for-profit where we can purchase homes and hold them for our community members. Inshallah, one day we do make enough profit where we can get to that level. But as of right now, this is, yes, a place where we purchase a home to find a solution for Muslims to not feel guilty in terms of getting to an interest-bearing contract. But I see your point, inshallah. Yes, brother. I'll get you after, sister. Is that okay? Jazakallah. Yes, sister.
I have a couple questions, so you can go first.
I have two questions.
Sure.
Those programs are recognized by the law of the United States?
So yes, the programs that we have do work within the federal framework of the United States, and that's a very good question because finance in the U.S. is very heavily regulated, and you have to work within their rules and guidelines as well. So
what is guaranteed term of the law show you can defend me?
absolutely, yes, yes, and that's part of why in the second slide there's I had the map of which states that we're operational in because of the fact that we don't have an interest contract, and because we don't have a traditional interest contract, we have to make sure that it works within the framework of the state laws, right? So if we were, technically, if we had a regular interest contract, it would be a lot easier to make sure that we can be operational in all of the gray states. Right now we're operational in the blue and the orange states, right? So every time we open up a state, we have to get lawyers to look into the state laws and then look into our Sharia compliant contract and say, does this work? This doesn't work. If it does, great, we'll move ahead. If it doesn't work, we can't change the contract. We just skip that state and move forward. So that is why, one of the reasons why we are operational in select states and not all states.
Okay.
Yes.
My other question, interest system, if the head of the house, which he did the agreement, if something happened to him, lost his job, lost his life, the home is gone. What Islamic or UIF guarantee or human side if something happened to the house?
Sure. So the brother's asking in terms of a worst case scenario,
Yeah.
what happens to the home? And I'll walk you through that scenario. So you close on the home, your payment starts about a month later. You have a full 1 month, then the payment starts. After that, your payment is due on the 1st of the month. And then you have 15 days extra to pay. It's called a grace period. After the 15th of the month, you have a fixed $50 late payment fee. It doesn't matter if you're financing $50,000 or you're financing $500,000. The fixed late payment is $50, because from an Islamic or Sharia perspective, you cannot profit off of a late payment, right? With a traditional bank, they generally charge you 5% interest on your late payment. So if your payment is $2,000, then from there it's a $100 fee. If it's a $3,000 payment, it's $150. With us, it doesn't matter. What we do at the end of the year is we donate that money to charity. But the reason why it's a fixed $50 is two ways. One is to, essentially, first, to have a deterrence for people to pay on time. If there's no late payment fee and you've already given them a grace period of 15 days, they haven't paid, there's a likely they won't continue to pay, right? And so because of that, you have that fixed $50 late payment fee. And then two, when we did a study many years ago, and it's probably gone up in cost now, the estimated cost for someone to follow up with you with phone calls, emails, and regular mail, the administrative cost was roughly around $50 in terms of collection and following up on payment. So that's the worst case scenario in terms of not paying on time. If you keep going a worst case scenario, you say, hey, we said $50 is no problem, but I have a bigger issue. I can't make my monthly payment. Depending on your monthly payment, we'll work with you. Sometimes we stop the payment, sometimes we lower the payment, and sometimes we don't do anything, to be honest with you, depending on your particular hardship, right? If you have a hardship, the first thing to do is to call us and let us know what's going on, and then we will look into it to see what we can do. Very important. Some people, unfortunately, they have a hardship and they don't contact anyone. They just don't pick up a phone call, they don't respond to emails or regular mail, and then it becomes a worse situation. So always keep that channel of communication open for us to work with you. Now, let's say, for example, worst case scenario, nothing could be done. Okay, we can't stop the payment, we couldn't lower the payment. Worst case, just keep it worst case scenario. Then we'll ask you to sell the home. When you sell the home, you keep the profit and you keep your promise to buy out our share of the home. Okay? If we keep going worst case scenario again, you don't sell the home and you stop making your payments and break your promise to buy us out, then we will follow state law and the house eventually goes into foreclosure. Okay? So that is kind of worst case scenario timeline.
That's very good.
Okay?
Thank you.
Inshallah. Yes, sister.
Okay, I had a couple questions.
Sure.
The first one was, you said that you primarily offer the third option,
Mhm.
but do you offer all three? Or you just offer the third?
We do offer all three.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the other question would be, is there a limit if you want to, let's say that you're doing the rent-to-own option, is there a limit on, okay, every month you're going to pay $1,000, but what if someone wants to go ahead, they got given a sum of money
So in all of the programs, there is no prepayment penalty. You could always pay extra to finish sooner or to get ownership of the house and such.
Okay. And then, in the situation, the third option, let's say that you go into it and I'm 20% owner at this point, you're 80% owner, and something goes wrong with the house. Let's say it needs a new roof, and you're the majority owner. This is going to cause great damage to the house if we don't get it repaired. Are we able to, do you have some sort of assistance where we help to fix it together since you're the majority owner, or do you give us the owner? How would you go about handling that situation?
Sure. With regards to purchasing the home, what we do is before we purchase the home, we do an appraisal on the home, okay? When we do an appraisal on the home, it tells us two things. It tells us the value of the home to make sure you're not overpaying for the house, and two, it tells us of the condition of the home, okay, to make sure it's livable, okay? And so if the house is livable, we're gonna be able to close on the home with you and give you the house in livable condition. After the closing, any repairs that you do or any repairs that are needed is gonna be on you, right? And the reason is this.
Sorry to pause, but just time for that, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله. Bismillah. So to finish that question up, so any repairs you do to the home will benefit you as the user, because in this partnership, in the contract, it says that we are only going to sell our share of the home to you, right? So let's say in today's market, with prices keep going up, we can't say, okay, I want to sell our 80% or 60% share to a third party, John or Frank, and then you have a whole new agreement. It doesn't work that way. The reason why I point that out is that when you buy out our shares, you're the only buyer of ours, okay? Later, when you go to sell the home, you benefit from any improvements in the home, whether it's a roof, a new kitchen, and so on. And so this is why we don't share in the replacement or repairs of the home after we've done an initial appraisal on the home.
That makes sense, like the same with any others.
Correct.
Okay, and then two more quick questions. So, let's say we're at 50-50 point, I paid off 50%, you own 50%, and I want to move,
Mhm.
and I want to sell the house.
Mhm.
Is what I'm going to make, let's say
Mhm.
as market prices increase.
Mhm.
Will I make from the home what I would in a traditional situation as if I had gone with a regular bank?
Yes,
Okay,
that is correct. Because we're gonna sell you our share of the home.
okay.
Our profit is on a monthly basis from you using our share of the home. If the market goes up and you sell it for 50% higher, whatever amount, that's on you, right? We don't speculate on the future value of the home. Any sales of the price of the home or proceeds go to you.
Okay. And then lastly, let's say again, hypothetically, that we're in a 50-50 situation,
Mhm.
and God forbid, we pass away,
Mhm.
and in my will, I don't have children, let's say I'm giving it to my mother. I'll be honest, there are the Sharia rules on that part
Mhm.
yet, but let's say I give it to my child or something in my will.
Mhm.
Is the absorption of the
Mhm.
loan the same as with a regular bank?
Yeah, you will be able to assign, let's say, the passing of a person, and if they want to assign it to someone else, family member, friend, whoever they can, they'll just continue making the payments, whatever is left and such. But they keep whatever equity in the home and such. So it doesn't go to the state or anything like that.
And if they want to sell it,
They
don't
could,
sell it to you, they sell it.
They sell
and
to
then
whoever they
pay
want.
off what's left.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right,
And we'll
thank
take
you.
just one last question, only just for the sake of the salah. We'll stay up afterwards to answer
You can continue until 9:20.
9:20. Okay, inshallah. Yes.
I assume UIF
Mhm.
is not functioning as an Islamic bank because you did not mention mudarraba, you did not mention sukuk,
Mhm.
and other instruments of Islamic finance.
That is correct. We are currently not a bank, and we don't have a profit sharing account, a mudaraba and such. We did in the past have a profit sharing account, okay, and we're looking to bring that back as well. And we are continuously growing. Alhamdulillah, we offer home financing, which we went over. We also offer renovation financing. So if you find a home for a primary residence that you want to live in, but it's not livable, okay? Or maybe it is livable and you want to expand it. It's a 2-bedroom home and you want to put a sunroom or a pool or whatever. We have renovation financing to offer. We just started to roll out vehicle financing in our home state, which is Michigan. It's a pilot program. We're going to, inshallah, as we continue to grow and make sure we have customer service done right and we make sure everything else is done right, we're going to open up vehicle financing to other states. And then we just started to offer, this past week, construction financing in our home state as well. So if you have a piece of land and you want to build on it from the ground up, we also have that program that we're starting to launch as well. So alhamdulillah, we're growing very well, but we want to do it in phases to make sure that we don't have poor customer service, right? At times, when dealing with the community, sometimes they think it's kind of like quote unquote back home mentality. Anything goes, yalla, just get it done. It doesn't work that way. There's a system, there's process, we have to be professional about it, and you should get the best of the best service, best pricing, as well as we continue to roll different services out. Any other, yes brother?
Okay, the first one, like the brother said, 120,000 revenue.
Yeah.
So, like you said, it's halal to have ribh in Islam.
Mhm.
The second and the third, like say we bought the house for 100,000.
Mhm.
So you're renting, the profit you're getting off would be like say 1,000, 500 goes a rent, 500 goes as ownership to the house, right?
In which model was that? The
rent.
the Ijara model.
So,
Mhm.
will the house stay 100,000?
Yes.
And the profit, there's no like, the house is 100,000, your company is making profit out of the rent,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah.
And the 500 goes,
To the 100,000.
yes.
Yes.
So, when will he, like, is it percentage wise too?
Yes.
Is it 100, like 110 to 80, 20, it's going like this?
No,
Until I own it?
Well, it's money put on the side until you have enough saved. That 100,000 is saved.
100,000.
And once that is saved, then you become owner of the property. Up until that point,
So the
there's no
500
ownership.
is like
Yes.
gathering money
Yes.
to make the 100,000.
The 100,000, correct. Yes.
Okay, what happens like hurricanes or something to the house?
So it depends on what happens to the house. In that case, the financing company would take the loss if there is a loss that the insurance doesn't cover. Yeah. Yes.
So, what independent governing body does your audits? What's their name?
In terms of, from a Sharia perspective?
To make sure that you're staying Sharia compliant throughout all these years.
Sure. So if you go on our website, myuif.com, there's a tab and you'll see all of the audits that are done year by year as well.
By who?
Different companies. The current organization escapes my mind at the moment.
But they're on the website?
They're on the website, yes. I do apologize. Rakaba. They're called Rakaba. I'm sorry. Rakaba does our independent audit year after year, and it's online for this year and the past years as well.
And are we able to get like templates of these contracts and have them looked at by third party to make sure?
You can, yes, you can. What we do is, in order to get that, you would have to sign what's called an NDA form, non-disclosure form. You get it signed and notarized, and you give it back to us. And basically, that says that you are getting a copy of the contract for your personal use and not for business purposes. And we give you a copy of the contract. Alhamdulillah, I mean, like I said, I've been with UIF for 14 years for a reason. Personally, I think it's a great company to work for, but they're very open, right? Like, I'm here answering questions. I'm not behind the computer, not trying to give information, right? So we want you to know what you're signing if you want a copy, absolutely. Inshallah.
So
Yes.
in terms of like the taxes, let's say like I own 10%, you own 90%. So you pay 90% of the taxes? I mean, like,
no. So the expenses of the home, you bear the expenses of the home. And there's a reason for that, right? And the reason is that where does the taxes go, right? Taxes goes towards the local township, right? Whether it's schools, is a good portion of the taxes, police department, roads, and so on. And since you live in the house, you benefit from those services. And so because of that, you would cover those taxes. Yeah. Inshallah. I can answer as many questions. I just want to be cognizant of the salah. That's all. So, you know, I don't want to be disrespectful towards the time. Yes, brother.
You have a competitor like guidance residential. Can you compare what is the difference? Why you go to UIF, not guidance?
Sure. Well, I mean, in terms of our competitors in general, I don't want to single out a single competitor, but alhamdulillah, we've been growing in terms of market share and should be #1 market share as well very soon if we're not already. But also, we do have excellent customer service, okay, and you can see from the reviews. You'll also see our process generally is a lot faster than our competitors, and we don't have other fees. Other companies, they charge extra closing cost fees, and they have extra monthly fees. They're called LLC fees. You don't need those from a Sharia perspective, okay? There's many reasons they give, but the truth of the matter is you don't benefit from it, and it's not needed from musharaka perspective. So lower cost, and we believe it's better customer service, so we hope that we're able to earn your business. Yes?
And like when let's say you start by I own 20%, you own 80%. You guys keep the ownership for yourself, or you sell it to some third party so you can get more money to buy more houses?
We have,
help other Muslims.
sure, well, we have both. We do both. We do have portfolio, which we keep the investment into the home, the contract, and then we also do have investors that invest in our contract after the closing so we can get our money back and continue to finance. So it depends. We do have both that we do.
Right. But it should not affect any of the...
No, the contract stays the same. Regardless of who your investor is or if we have portfolio, nothing changes with the contract. And another difference between us and our competitors is we service our contracts. Very important. Servicing contract is different than investor. Servicing is who collects your payment and who deals with you after the closing, right? Collecting payment, property taxes, home insurance, your hardship. You call us, we have a sister company that we own. It's our sister company called Midwest Loan Services. You call them up or you can give me a call. I could help you just the same because we have the same system. We could look into it and find out what's going on. Other Islamic finance companies don't service their contract. Every year or a few years, they sell their servicing, and then you're dealing with another company year after year. I've been with UIF for 14 years. It's the same servicing company because it's our sister company. And this is a benefit. Sometimes people say, Wesam, I want to pay off the contract. No problem, I'll get it to you. Give me just 24 hours, I'll get you the payoff amount.
Even
So,
if you sell the whole share.
doesn't matter,
to
yeah.
someone else?
So there's investors and there is servicing. The investor deals with the servicing. You never deal with the investor no matter what. You always deal with the servicing company, and that would be us.
This is an investor or something like Freddie Mac or something?
Well, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae are investors, and we also have private Muslim investors as well. So we try to, get as many investors as possible to give different options to get files to work. Jazakallah khair, inshallah. We'll end, inshallah, so we're not late on the salah. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you.